When you think of terrorism, what do you think of? Suicide bombers with explosives strapped to their back, looking for death? Terrible people with no morals creating devastating disasters? But terrorism could also be productive if used correctly. The Kosovo Liberation Army was a successful terrorist group who achieved their political goal of making Kosovo its own independent country. Kosovo has had a long history with different types of rulers. The Albanians believed that Kosovo had originally belonged to them because of the ancient Illyrians that lived there before the Serbs. Over the time period, there have been many wars over who should rule the province, mainly between the Albanians and the Serbians, but also with the Turkish. In and around 1990, right before the KLA started to form, Kosovo was and had been under Serb rule since 1912, but had an Albanian autonomy since 1974. This was because Kosovo was a heavily populated Albanian province in Serbia. In 1989, a new Yugoslav president was elected that tried to strip the rights of the Albanian autonomy. The KLA was formed in the late 1997 when the Albanian-dominated province, Kosovo, was forced to have a Serbian ruler who stripped them of their autonomy. The Serbs put in their own ruler and police. The police mistreated the Albanians who lived there. The goals of the KLA were to have a secession of Kosovo from Serbia and create a greater Albania, encompassing Kosovo, Albania, and portions of Macedonia, where Albanian people were a minority. They had great moral and financial support among the Albanian diaspora. The support only grew when the Serbs oppressed the Albanians in the heavily Kosovo province. Although Kosovo was initially put on the terrorist list in 1998, they were removed shortly after because of the international support. The KLA started off in 1998 as a small army with only 500 members who were well disciplined but not heavily armed. By the end of 1998, though, they had around 12,000 to 20,000 members. A lot of times they were organized themselves with only 3 to 5 people carrying out the attacks. Many of the members were professionally trained. They even had over 1,000 mercenaries. Among them were British and German instructors. Initially, at the beginning of 1998, the KLA did attacks on Serbia's special forces and police operating in the province, and not on the special police and high police officials. But after the March 1998 Drnica massacre, they did attacks on the police and military, and by May and June they were doing high weaponry attacks. Terrorism was a useful strategy because at the time they were being terrorized by the Serbian government and had to defend themselves. While defending themselves with their terroristic tactics, they were able to gain support from other countries and NATO while continuing to do attacks in Serbia. They used terrorist strategies but quickly taken off the terrorist list. The support was easily gained because other countries and NATO were already against Serbia because of their involvement in World War II, in which they were communists and housed Nazi soldiers. The KLA was a very successful terrorist group who achieved all their political aims and gained independence from Serbia. They were really successful because of all the support they received from Albanians in and outside of Albania, US, China, and especially from NATO, who launched the airstrikes. Not only did they achieve all their aims, they did it within 19 months of their first show of resistance. The KLA was able to achieve their goals so quickly because of its heavily dominated Albanian population and because they were viewed for the majority of their existence as not terrorists. This allowed for more people to support them. After winning the war and declaring Kosovo its own country, many of the leaders in the KLA became part of the mainstream political parties. The military leader, Hashim Saku, became Prime Minister of Kosovo after the war in 2006. The head leader of the KLA, Hashim Thaçi, became leader of the Democratic Party after the war, and in 2008 he became Prime Minister of Kosovo. Also, the combatants in the KLA became part of the Kosovo Protection Corps, an emergency response organization that is overseen by the UN. The KLA was one of the most successful terrorist groups of all time.